The fluorescent lights of Reagan International Airport buzzed overhead as Alexandra Hayes stood rigid at the security checkpoint. Her calm demeanor betrayed nothing, even as the TSA agent's expression shifted from routine boredom to suspicion. "Ma'am, step aside, please," the agent said, loud enough for nearby travelers to turn their heads. Alexandra complied silently, her sharp green eyes scanning the terminal with practiced precision. The contents of her weathered leather messenger bag spilled. Across the plastic bin, standard items alongside, a small metallic device that caught the supervisor's attention. He held it up with latex-gloved fingers, eyebrows furrowed. "What exactly is this?" he demanded, voice elevated to establish authority. "Communication equipment." "I have clearance documentation," Alexandra replied evenly, reaching for her inside pocket. "Don't move!" The supervisor's hand shot up dramatically. More heads turned. Alexandra remained perfectly still, her face a mask of controlled patience, while her mind calculated escape routes, an old habit from years in the field. This looks like something that could interfere with aircraft systems. "I'm going to need to call this in." The supervisor's voice carried across the checkpoint. A small crowd had gathered, watching the petite blonde woman being treated like a security threat. Alexandra felt her cheeks flush slightly, not from embarrassment, but from controlled anger. After 15 years of service, after Kandahar and Damascus and operations no civilian would ever know about, to be detained by overzealous airport security seemed almost comical. "Sir, I understand you're doing your job, but if you'd just check my credentials, we'll determine what's legitimate," he interrupted, emptying the remaining contents of her bag. A handful of travelers now openly stared, some filming with their phones. The supervisor lifted a small notebook with foreign writing, waving it accusingly. "And what's this? Some kind of code?" Before Alexandra could answer, a subtle shift in the airport's energy made her straighten. The fine hairs on her neck stood up, a sensation that had saved her life more than once. 6 men in civilian clothing entered the terminal, moving with unmistakable coordination. To untrained eyes, they might have been any group of athletic men in their 30s. But Alexandra recognized their formation immediately, and the leader even faster. Commander Marcus Hawk Williams walked directly toward the security checkpoint, his team flanking him in a loose but deliberate pattern. His face, weathered by desert sun and midnight operations, remained neutral until he spotted Alexandra. Then the slightest smile. "Is there a problem here?" Williams asked, his voice carrying the quiet authority that had commanded men through the most dangerous missions in modern warfare. The supervisor puffed up. "Sir, this is a security matter. I need you to step back." Williams reached into his jacket and produced identification that made the supervisor's eyes widen. "Commander Marcus Williams, Navy SEAL Team 6. This woman is carrying time-sensitive intelligence relevant to national security. We're her escort team. I wasn't informed of any—" The supervisor stammered. "That's the point of covert operations," said another SEAL, Lieutenant James Cooper, whose quick thinking had saved 37 hostages in Mogadishu last year. Alexandra kept her expression neutral, but internally she relaxed. 3 days ago, she'd been extracting human intelligence from an asset deep in hostile territory when the situation deteriorated. She'd barely made it to the extraction point before Williams and his team arrived under heavy fire. "Ms. Hayes infiltrated a terrorist cell to secure the intelligence she's carrying," Williams continued, voice lowered but still audible to the now captivated onlookers. "She identified the location of 3 American hostages and facilitated their rescue before her cover was compromised." The supervisor's face drained of color as he looked at the small communication device he'd been holding up like evidence. "This is specialized equipment that kept her connected to our team during extraction," completed Cooper. "It saved lives 3 nights ago." The gathered crowd had fallen silent. A woman who had been filming lowered her phone slowly, her expression shifting from entertained curiosity to somber respect. Alexandra collected her belongings with efficient movements, tucking the communication device and notebook securely in her bag. She nodded almost imperceptibly to Williams. "We have a briefing at the Pentagon in 30 minutes, Williams said, checking his watch. The intelligence Ms. Hayes secured suggests an imminent threat to American interests overseas. As the team moved through the terminal, travelers instinctively stepped aside, some nodding respectfully, others watching in awe. Alexandra walked among the SEALs, smaller in stature but every bit their equal in courage and commitment. Behind them, the embarrassed security supervisor was already being approached by his manager, who had received a very interesting call from the Department of Defense. Alexandra permitted herself the smallest smile. Another day serving a country that would never know her name or the risks she'd taken to keep them safe. And somehow that anonymity made it all worthwhile. The international arrivals terminal at Dulles Airport hummed with the usual chaos of travelers, but something about the woman at customs counter 3 drew attention. Samantha Reed stood perfectly still as officers rifled through her carefully. Packed luggage, her military posture betraying her past despite the civilian clothes. "Ma'am, you've visited 3 high-risk countries in the past month," the customs officer said, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Your travel pattern has triggered several security protocols." Samantha nodded once, her expression neutral. "I understand. I have documentation explaining my travels." Her hand moved slowly toward her jacket pocket. "Stop right there," the officer ordered sharply. "Keep your hands where I can see them." People were staring now. A second officer arrived, whispering something to the first. Samantha caught fragments. Unusual items? Security risk? Further questioning. The first officer emptied her bag onto the counter. Clothing, toiletries, a dog-eared paperback. Then came items that raised eyebrows. A specialized satellite, phone, a notebook with coordinates and what appeared to be coded entries, an unusual medal that neither officer recognized. "Care to explain these?" The officer held up the notebook with gloved hands. "These look like military coordinates." Samantha kept her voice level. "As I mentioned, I have clearance documentation that explains—" "And this scar?" The female officer interrupted, pointing to the jagged mark visible at Samantha's collarbone. "Looks like a combat wound." A small crowd had gathered now, watching the interrogation with that particular mix of fascination and discomfort that public humiliations always draw. Samantha felt heat rising in her cheeks, not from embarrassment but from controlled anger. After 3 tours as a Marine and 7 years with the agency, being treated like a suspicious character stung more than she cared to admit. "Ma'am, we're going to need to take you to a private screening room for additional questioning," the officer declared, gathering her belongings into evidence bags. That's when Samantha noticed a shift in the terminal's energy. 6 men had entered through the main doors, moving with the synchronized efficiency that only comes from years of operating as a unit. To most observers, they might have looked like athletes or businessmen, but Samantha immediately recognized the subtle indicators, the scanning eyes, the tactical spacing, the way they moved through the crowd with minimal contact. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Ghost Ryder spotted her first. His weathered face remained impassive as he changed course directly toward the customs checkpoint, his team adjusting their formation without a word. "Is there a problem here?" Ryder asked, his voice carrying the quiet authority that had commanded some of America's most dangerous missions. The customs officer straightened defensively. "Sir, this is a secure area. I need to ask you to step back." Ryder reached inside his jacket slowly, producing credentials that made both officers' eyes widen. "Lieutenant Commander Ryder, Navy SEAL Team 6. Ms. Reed is expected at the Pentagon for an intelligence briefing. We're her escort." "She's been flagged as a security concern," the female officer persisted, though with noticeably less conviction. "Ms. Reed is one of our country's most valuable intelligence assets," said Chief Petty Officer Marcus Donovan, stepping forward. The scar across his left cheek tightened as he spoke. 3 weeks ago, she saved my life and identified the location of 12 American hostages in territory too hostile to name in public. Samantha maintained her composure, but memories flashed. Unbidden. The ambush outside Raqqa. The bullet that had grazed her collarbone. The split-second decision to push Donovan out of a sniper's sight line. Her analysis had been crucial in mapping the compound where American aid workers were being held. The rescue operation had been headline news, though her role remained classified. The items you're questioning are specialized equipment that helped coordinate the most successful hostage extraction in recent military history. Ryder continued, his voice lowered but carrying an undeniable weight. The assembled travelers had fallen silent, the atmosphere shifting from voyeuristic interest to something approaching reverence. The customs supervisor arrived, flustered and apologetic after receiving a call from someone well above his pay grade. "Miss Reed, please accept our apologies. You're free to go." As Samantha collected her belongings, the 6 SEALs formed a protective formation around her, not because she needed protection, but out of profound respect. "Extraction helicopter is waiting, ma'am," Ryder said quietly. "New intelligence suggests we have another situation developing." They moved through the terminal together, the crowd parting instinctively. Behind them, travelers whispered and pointed, wondering about the mysterious woman and the elite warriors who treated her with such deference. Samantha felt the weight of the satellite phone in her pocket. On it was information that would save more lives, require more impossible decisions. But that was the job she'd chosen, serving in shadows, without recognition, for a country that would never know her name.